So if you're looking for a mechanical keyboard that has pretty much everything for being hot swappable, is wireless, has RGB lights, has a numpad, but doesn't cost a fortune, then this is a keyboard that you'll definitely want to check out. So let's go over the AJAZZ AK980 mechanical keyboard. I'm gonna go over all the different features of this, show you a demo of me using it and how it works, then take out one of the keycaps and the switches, so you can just see how that's done, and then go over a sound test of me typing, as well as just going over individual keys with a sound test. And I'm gonna talk about who this keyboard is really for. All of this to help you make a better informed buying decision. So what is this keyboard? This is a 98% layout mechanical keyboard, which means you get the full numpad and function keys, but in a more compact footprint than a traditional size keyboard. So that's what I like most about this, is just the size. It having that numpad with not being so big. It is wireless with tri-mode connectivity. So it has the 2.4 GHz dongle, it has Bluetooth, and you can of course connect it through the USB-C cable. And it is hot swappable, so these switches can be removed and replaced with other switches for more customization to your keyboard. And it works with both Windows and Mac. And the build is surprisingly hefty for this keyboard. It comes in around 3.3 pounds and definitely makes it feel sturdy on your desk. Okay, so let's do an unboxing of this and then go over the features of the keyboard and do the sound tests. Okay, so let's do an unboxing of this keyboard. All right, we have the instructions. We have a plastic case over the keyboard, which all keyboards come with, so it doesn't smush any of the keys. Go ahead and take out the keyboard. And that is nice. It has a nice hefty feel to it. Keys feel nice. The little metal dial with our little screen has a cool little graphic right here. That's a nice touch. And the AK980 on the back. Most mechanical keyboards don't have that big of a logo on the back. We can switch from Mac and Windows in the tri-mode connectivity. We have the USB-C there. So really nice build to this keyboard. And then we have our USB-A to USB-C cable. Then we have our tool to take off the keycaps and as well as take out the switches. And we'll go over a demo of taking out the switches and pulling off the keycaps so you can see how that's done. Okay, so this is a 98% layout mechanical keyboard, which means you get the full numpad here and the function keys, but in a much more compact footprint than a traditional full-size keyboard. So that's what I love about this. In my opinion, the full-size keyboards are just too big. They just take up too much of the actual desk. So this is a really good compromise with this size. So it is wireless with the tri-mode connectivity. Look on the top again here, you can see we have the tri-mode connectivity. So we have the 2.4 gigahertz dongle, and then we have the USB connection, and we have Bluetooth 5.0 connection. So the USB-C, of course, right there. And then we could go on to the back and lift this up. And then we can see that we have our little dongle that we can just slide right out and put this into our computer and then have that connection that way. So of course, the most stable connection would be the USB-C connection, second most stable, this one here, and then the third, the Bluetooth connectivity. So it's nice having these three options. So this is also really good for traveling, whether you have the keyboard, whether you just need more space. And you can see it does work for both Windows and Mac. Just go ahead and switch that to whichever computer you're on. And its weight here is around 3.3 pounds. So it does make it a really solid feel on your desk. So the keycaps are made of PBT plastic, and PBT is a harder, more durable plastic than the ABS you usually find on cheaper keyboards. So ABS keycaps tend to get shiny and greasy looking over time as the oils from your fingers wear down the surface. With the PBT, you keep that matte, that slightly textured feel even after months of use. So I'll just go ahead and pull one off here just so you can see. So we have our little tool and we'll use this end here. And all we have to do is just wrap this around the keycap, hold down the keyboard so you can see that it's connected to the keycap, hold down and pull up, So there's the keycap. You can see it's a little bit nicer of a keycap than most. And to put the keycap back on, all we have to do is just put it into place, and then just push straight down. And also overall, they just have a slightly thicker feel, and they just feel more satisfying when you press down on them. And these keycaps are also cherry profile keycaps, which is the most popular shape in the keyboard community. So the keys are sculpted, meaning each row has a slightly different angle, so your fingers naturally fall into the right position. Personally, I like the cherry profile the best, so you can see just the different rows, just the heights of them. Look at it from an angle here. That's a good shot, so you can see just the rows and the height of them. It's also just really comfortable for typing and something you would expect to see on a more expensive custom keyboard. Okay, so before we get into more of the features of the keyboard, let's go over the sound test of the keyboard. So I'll go ahead and take off my mic and put it close to the keyboard so you can hear the thockiness. Okay, now I'll do a sound test of the switch as well. Okay, and we'll also go over how to take off the switch. So we have our little prong tool, and we'll just have the prongs on the top and bottom. And we'll go ahead and push it all the way in. And once I take the switch out, I'll show you where the prongs go into. A little bit easier to explain, but we'll go ahead and cinch on in and then hold the keyboard, pull straight up. And there we have our switch. All right, so the switch is a 𝗪𝗏𝗔 switch. It is a linear mechanical switch, so no tactile bump, no click. And it is factory lubed. So that means you're gonna get a creamier, smoother feel to the actual switch. And the sound profile is soft, lower pitched, smoothly clicky. Just have a look at the switch. So it is a 3-pin switch, 1, 2, and 3. What's nice about the keyboard though is this is hot swappable, and you can add in a 5-pin switch as well. So it's 3 and 5-pin switch compatible. Here is the switch. So this was the bottom of the switch. And then when we put our little prong tool, we just pushed in the little side right here with it. We can see that little plastic piece right there on top and the bottom, and that allowed us to then pull out the switch. Okay, let's do a sound test. Okay, and then we can put the switch back in. So this was the bottom right here. Just go ahead and place it back in. Okay, and then hold the keyboard and push straight down, and you'll hear it click into place. And we'll put the keycap back on, and you're good to go. And here's what it sounds like when I'm typing. Go ahead and put the mic down so you can hear the full sound test now. Okay, so let's turn this on. So we'll turn on to the Bluetooth, and the screen will come on. Okay, so the display that we have here. So go ahead and move it on over so we can see we have different modes that we can go to. So we can, on the far left right here, it shows Windows and Mac. Then we have the different modes that we can go into. Then we have the time, then we have the battery life up top, and then the date. Okay, and then to adjust the screen, go ahead and hold down FN and then go ahead and cycle through and scroll through. And by default, this does come in Chinese. And to change that to English, hold down FN and V, and then I'll change it to English. So we have our effects, different effects for the RGB on the keyboard. There are 19 effects we can scroll through, as well as turning them off as well. Okay, next is the color, just the brightness of the RGB backlights, and then the speed of the automation of the RGB backlights, and then finally the language. And we go back to our main screen, and you saw that we can go back and we can have this cool little AJAZZ graphic. So what I like about this is we can adjust the lighting, the effect, through the menu here. You don't have to remember any keyboard shortcuts or anything like that. A lot of mechanical keyboards have. So that's one of the biggest advantages of having this screen, and just be able to see the time as well and the battery life. That's also very helpful. So having a screen, at least for me personally, I always find these are really useful on mechanical keyboards, and the knob is great. This can also be used for volume control as well when you're not in the menu. Just having the volume control on a knob on your keyboard makes a huge difference in my opinion. Okay, so now I want to talk about the gasket mount design that it has. So this gasket mount is actually a big deal on this keyboard, and it's something you usually only see on more expensive keyboards. So having this on a more budget-friendly keyboard is great to have. So most cheaper keyboards usually have what's called a tray mount, where the plate is screwed directly into the case. So every time you bottom out on a key, that impact goes straight into the rigid case and you hear that hollow pingy sound. With a gasket mount, there's a soft silicone or foam material sandwiched between the plate and the case. So when you type, the plate can actually flex a little bit and it absorbs the impact instead of transferring it straight to the case. So what this means for you, it's a softer, more cushioned typing feel. You're not slamming into the hard surface every keystroke. It also cuts down on the hollow echo sound and any high-pitched pinging you might get from a cheaper keyboard, that sound that we all hate. So in my experience, this makes a noticeable difference in the actual typing experience. And most of my mechanical keyboards are really gasket mount. So when you're typing for hours, whether that's work, gaming, or just whatever, your fingers don't get as fatigued because you're not constantly bottoming out on a hard surface. So it's almost like the keyboard is working with you instead of fighting you. And as you heard, the sound profile is great on this, and you wouldn't get that with a cheaper keyboard that didn't have a gasket mount. Okay, so the battery life on this thing is pretty impressive. It's a 10,000 mAh battery, and this translates to about 28 hours of use with the RGB lighting on. You turn the lights off, and you're looking at around 110 hours or so. So usually I keep my RGB lights off most of the time because I like having a long battery life. I don't like having to plug this in all the time, but it's really not that big of a deal if you do use the RGB lights. 28 hours is still a good runtime with the RGB lights on. So for me, I can go several weeks without needing a charge as long as I turn off the keyboard after every use. One thing I noticed, if you do get the purple version of this, there is a different color that you can get as well, is the purple lighting mode looks a little more pink than purple. It's still nice, but just keep that in mind if you're expecting a deep purple. Okay, so what do I like about this keyboard? The build quality is excellent. I mean, it feels heavy, it feels premium, there's no flexing with it. The gasket mount gives you that nice typing feel, as you heard. The hot swap means you can customize your switches without soldering them. And the battery life is really good. Like I really don't have to plug this in at all. Again, I don't use the RGB lights. And to be honest, I didn't expect to get weeks of use between charges with this. So one thing that can be improved, and the instructions could be clear, especially for setting up the display and the clock. So a few things that I think could be improved here about this is if it just had English as the first language that was on the keyboard. So you have to look into the manual to know that you need to press the FN and V to switch to English. Also, it'd be nice if you had a few extra switches and a few extra keycaps. Some mechanical keyboards do come with those, so that's kind of nice to have with your purchase. So who is this keyboard really for? Really anyone who wants a feature-packed mechanical keyboard without spending a lot. So if you want hot swappable switches, you want the tri-mode connectivity, you want RGB lights, you want a numpad all in one package, then this definitely checks all those boxes. So that's really what I like. It's just a great all-around keyboard. So it's great for gamers that want that 2.4 gigahertz low latency connection. It's great for productivity people who need that numpad but don't want a massive keyboard taking up their entire desk. And if you're someone who likes customizing their keyboard, this is definitely for you as well. So it's a really good foundation. I would say this isn't for a really hardcore, really advanced mechanical keyboard user. You probably want to pick up another keyboard. But for beginner intermediates, this is an excellent mechanical keyboard to pick up. So in my opinion, the AJAZZ AK980 is definitely a keyboard worth checking out. You're getting a lot of features here, so it's definitely a keyboard worth considering.